My mother and sister hated her because of her size until things changed and they. Please stay with me as I tell my story. And please, do not forget to support our channel by subscribing to our channel, liking our videos, and sharing your loved ones. Your support means the world to us. Now to our story. They never said it to her face, of course. That would have made it too easy to call them out. My mom and sister liked to keep things quiet. Little jabs, side eyes, fake laughs. Every time Emily left the room, they'd start. Did you see the way her thighs barely fit in that chair? She's sweet, but come on. Doesn't she own a mirror? She really let herself go before even locking you down, huh? Then they'd laugh like they were just being harmless. Like it was some inside joke I was supposed to find funny too. Emily had been my girlfriend for just 3 months when I brought her home for the first time. I told her not to be nervous. My mom could be blunt, and my sister could be competitive, but they'd warm up to her. They always did. But they didn't. From the second Emily walked through the door, with her soft smile and arms full of wine and dessert, they had already made up their minds. Mom looked her up and down. You didn't have to bring dessert, hun. We're all watching our sugar here. Sasha, my sister, looked at Emily's jeans and said, "Wow, those are brave. Good for you." Emily didn't say anything. She smiled politely. She complimented the curtains. She helped set the table. She offered to clean the dishes after dinner. And then, when she excused herself to the bathroom, they started whispering again. I sat there. I heard it all. I wanted to say something, but I didn't want to cause a scene. I told myself it was just one night. They'd get over it. They just needed time. But it didn't stop. Every visit, every dinner, every phone call afterward, they always had something to say. Always about her weight. Sometimes her voice. Once even her laugh. And Emily always heard them. She never said so directly, but I knew. I'd catch her going quiet in the car, or smiling too hard at dinner, or wiping her eyes in the bathroom before we left. One night after a particularly brutal dinner, I asked her if she was okay. She looked at me calm. Almost too calm. I'm fine, she said. People show you who they are eventually. I thought that was the end of it, that she was just being mature, taking the high road. But what I didn't know then was that she wasn't ignoring them. She was remembering everything. Quietly, carefully, like someone taking notes. Thanksgiving was always a big deal in my family. My mom made it a production, the kind where the napkins had to match the plates, and everyone dressed like they were going to a country club photo shoot. Emily offered to help cook, but my mom waved her off like she was some clumsy intern. No, sweetheart, just relax. There's not much room in the kitchen, she said, even though it was a massive open-plan kitchen with more counter space than an actual restaurant. Sasha arrived late, of course, loud and already talking about how she was starving to death on this keto thing. She walked in, hugged me, hugged Mom, then looked Emily up and down like she was a riddle she didn't want to solve. "Oh my God, you brought pie?" Sasha said, picking up the homemade caramel apple pie Emily baked. "You do know how much sugar's in that, right?" Emily smiled. "It's Thanksgiving." Sasha just smirked. "Some of us still have to fit into jeans tomorrow." It only got worse from there. The entire dinner was an ambush dressed up as family bond. Every sentence they said came with a double meaning. Mom kept offering Emily small portions, saying, "I don't want you to feel pressured to finish everything." Sasha made comments about how brave it was that Emily wore a fitted dress. At one point she even asked, dead serious, "So how did you two meet?" "A cooking class." I looked at Emily across the table. She wasn't smiling anymore. She was doing that thing where she stares at her plate, like if she focuses hard enough, she can disappear. The worst came when Sasha pulled out her phone and showed everyone an old high school picture of herself, joking, "Look at me before I knew what carbs were. Can you believe people used to call me chubby?" The table laughed. Emily stood up without a word and walked out of the dining room. I followed her a minute later. She was in the guest bathroom, door locked. I could hear her crying. "Emily?" I said quietly. She opened the door. Her eyes were red, but her face was calm again. The same too calm as before. "I'm okay," she said. "Don't worry. I'm fine." I should have said something right then. To Mom, to Sasha, to the whole damn room. But I didn't. I told myself I'd talk to them later. I told myself Emily could handle it. But what I didn't know, what I couldn't see, was that something in her had changed. And they had just made their first real mistake. After Thanksgiving, Emily changed. Not in any obvious way. She still smiled, still kissed me goodnight, still asked how my day was. But something under the surface shifted. Her eyes watched more. She spoke less. And when she did speak, her words were sharper, measured. It wasn't just my family she stopped talking much about. It was everyone. Like she'd pulled her emotions inside and locked them up tight. One night, I noticed her laptop open on the couch. She was in the shower. I glanced at the screen and froze. It wasn't Netflix or Pinterest. It was a spreadsheet. Dozens of names. Notes beside them. Dates. Timelines. Screenshots. "What's all this?" I asked when she came out. She didn't flinch. She just raised a brow. You went through my laptop? It was open, I said. Are you spying on people? She dried her hair with a towel and walked over. It's just research. Old habit. Old habit from what? That's when she sat down and told me everything. Emily wasn't just some freelance graphic designer like I thought. That was her current gig, one she picked after leaving a corporate job. But before that, she worked in crisis PR for a Fortune 500 firm. She handled lawsuits, scandals, smear campaigns. She knew how to control stories, dig into people's online footprints, and dismantle reputations before. And before that, she studied behavioral psychology, body language, emotional profiling, manipulation patterns. It was a hobby before it was a degree. I sat there stunned. Why didn't you ever tell me? She smiled, but it wasn't the sweet, soft smile I was used to. It was smaller, controlled. Because people only care when I act small, she said. It's easier for them to underestimate me. I didn't know what to say. The woman I thought I knew, soft, gentle, maybe a little insecure, had teeth. And now I understood something I hadn't before. She hadn't taken my mom and sister's abuse. She'd filed it, organized it, strategized around it. You planning something? I asked, half joking. She didn't laugh. I don't start wars, she said, but I don't lose them either. That night, I couldn't sleep. Not because I was scared of her, but because for the first time, I realized how badly they had underestimated, and how badly I had too. It came out of nowhere. One afternoon, Emily turned to me and said, I think I'm going to help Sasha. I blinked. Help her how? She mentioned last week she was looking for a new job. I know a founder at a wellness startup that's hiring someone for marketing and brand work. I'm going to connect them. I just stared at her. Wait, seriously? Sasha. After everything, Emily smiled like it was no big deal. She's your sister. And sometimes people change when you give them a chance to rise. I didn't know what to say. On the outside, it looked generous. Kind. Maybe even a peace offering. But deep down, it didn't sit right. Not after everything they'd said to her. Not after Thanksgiving. But Emily played it off so naturally I couldn't argue without sounding like a jerk. When she told Sasha, my sister lit up like she'd won the lottery. Wait, seriously? You'd do that for me? She said, eyes wide, fake gratitude in full effect. Emily just nodded. Of course. I think you'd be great at it. A week later, Sasha had an informal Zoom with the founder. Emily sat in on the call, smiled, praised her communication skill, boosted her resume, talked her up like a pro. By the end of the week, Sasha was consulting part-time with the company. It wasn't full employment, but it was a foot in the door, and Sasha bragged about it nonstop. I watched it all from the sidelines, more confused than ever. Emily had gone from being insulted and mocked to suddenly being helpful, supportive, involved. She even started coming around more, family dinners, casual check-ins with my mom. Never too much, never too eager, just enough to seem warm, harmless, even likable. My mom started calling her sweet again. Sasha sent her dumb memes. And yet, Emily never said a word about the past, never brought up Thanksgiving, never mentioned the names they called her or the tears they made her cry. She smiled, she listened, she watched. One night, while brushing her hair before bed, she said, It's funny how quickly people soften when they think you're on their side. I looked at her in the mirror. You sure this is a good idea? I asked. Emily paused, then gave me a little shrug. Sometimes to clean out the rot, you have to walk into the house first. Then she kissed me goodnight. And I couldn't shake the feeling that Sasha had just walked straight into something she wouldn't see coming. Emily waited until we were alone, one late Friday night, curled up on the couch with 2 glasses of wine and nothing playing on the TV. I need you to stay out of something, she said out of nowhere. I turned to her, confused. What? This next part. Don't interfere. Don't defend them. Don't ask me to explain it twice. Emily, what are you talking about? She reached for her laptop, opened a folder titled Insurance, and slid it onto my lap. Inside were screenshots, emails, documents, voice memos, spreadsheets. The first set was about Sasha. She's been copying content from other wellness influencers, Emily said calmly. Stuff she passes off as her own to the startup. That little weekly email campaign she's so proud of? Word for word stolen from 3 different creators. I scrolled through the side-by-side comparisons. She wasn't exaggerating. It was blatant. And there were receipts, timestamps, caches, archived links. Stuff that would end any professional reputation she had left. That's not all, Emily continued. She's also been logging extra hours, billing for meetings that never happened, sending invoices for work I did, and she slapped her name on. I documented everything. I looked up from the screen. How long have you been collecting all this? She sipped her wine. Since the moment she called my pie diabetes on a plate. I didn't know whether to be shocked or impressed. Probably both. And Mom, she said, leaning back. I paused. What about her? Emily pulled up another folder. This one labeled tax game. She runs that charity like it's her personal bank account. She writes off family dinners as donor meetings, bills spa visits as mental health expenses, and takes volunteers on wine tours, including Sasha. The IRS might not care yet, but the board definitely will. My stomach turned. I had grown up watching my mom host those charity auctions and fundraisers. She always looked so proud, so polished. Emily turned to me then. I'm not going to the police. I'm not leaking anything. Not yet. I just want you to know I'm not doing this out of pettiness. Then why? I asked. She looked straight at me. Because I gave them chances. I let them show me who they are. And I believe them now. I sat there in silence. I'd wanted them to change. Emily had just planned for what would happen if they didn't. And they didn't. Now it was only a matter of time. It was supposed to be just brunch. Just a quiet, polite meal with my mom at one of her favorite overpriced cafes. The kind with lavender lattes and eggs that come with microgreens instead of toast. Emily didn't want to go at first. She said she didn't trust casual invitations from my mom anymore. But I told her it might be a step forward. That maybe finally things were softening. I was wrong. It started fine. Stiff small talk, fake smiles. My mom complimenting Emily's earrings like she wasn't the same person who once said Emily dressed like she shopped blindfold. Then came the wine. 2 glasses in, my mom leaned forward and said, in the kind of voice that sounds kind to anyone listening nearby, "So how exactly do you two split expenses? Just curious." Emily raised an eyebrow. 50-50. Mom tilted her head. "Oh. That's generous of you, sweetheart. I just assumed." Emily didn't respond. She just took another sip of her coffee. That's when my mom said it. Low but sharp. The kind of thing you couldn't mistake for anything but what it was. "Well, I mean, you seem smart. A fat girl has to be, right? Especially if she wants to hang on to a guy like my son. I get it. You're playing the long game." It was like time stopped. Even the waiter nearby froze for half a second, like he wasn't sure if he heard what he thought he heard. I turned to Emily, ready to say something, anything. But she was already setting down her cup. Calm. Collected. She pulled out her phone and scrolled. "Marianne," she said, smiling at my mom. "Check your email." My mom blinked. "What? Right now?" She pulled out her phone with an eye roll, like she was about to make a point. Then I watched her face shift. Her eyes darted back and forth. She went pale. And then, her hand started shaking. "What is this?" she hissed. Emily stood up slowly. "It's a full report. Sent to every board member at the foundation. Expense breakdowns. Photos, voicemails, backup files, in case someone tries to delete anything." My mom's phone started buzzing. Once. Twice. Then nonstop. Emily leaned down just enough for only the 2 of us to hear. "You should have just let me eat my pie." Then she straightened, looked at me, and said, "You ready to go?" I stood. My mom was still staring at her phone like it might catch fire. Emily walked out without looking back. I followed, and for the first time in my life, I didn't feel guilty leaving my mother behind. Sasha had been bragging about this interview all week. "It's a director-level position," she kept saying. "They're looking for someone who understands influencer marketing. And hello, that's basically." She strutted around like she already had the job. Told mom she might move to New York. Bought a new blazer. Got her nails done. Even practiced her fake laugh in the mirror. Emily never said a word. The interview was scheduled for Tuesday afternoon. Sasha wore her CEO energy outfit, pencil skirt, tight smile, and a purse that cost more than my rent. She walked into the downtown office confident, phone in hand, ready to charm the room. Then she saw who was sitting at the head of the conference table. Emily. Not behind a desk. Not in the back. At the head. Wearing a black blazer. Calm. In control. Sasha's mouth dropped. "What the hell are you doing here?" Emily didn't flinch. "I'm the strategic advisor to the board, and I'm leading this round of interviews." There was a long silence. One of the junior execs looked between them, clearly confused. "Do you two know each other?" Sasha forced a laugh. "Yeah, kind of. She's my brother's girlfriend." Emily nodded once. "Let's begin." They went through the motions at first. Questions about brand identity, past experience, campaign results. Sasha lied, smoothly at first, claiming credit for things Emily had created, padding her numbers, repeating buzzwords she found on. Emily let her finish. Then she opened a folder. "I'd like to clarify a few things," she said. "This deck you submitted? Most of it's copied from a consulting project I completed 2 years ago. I still have the originals." Sasha froze. Emily continued. "Also, the brand you claimed to scale from 10K to 100K followers, they responded to our inquiry. You didn't work there. You were blocked for stealing content." The other people in the room shifted uncomfortably. "And finally," Emily said, her voice steady, "you forgot to mention we went to high school together. You called me Manatee for 3 years and once shoved a cupcake in my locker, as a joke." Sasha stood up, face burning red. "This is insane. You're not even. This is personal." Emily didn't move. "No, it's professional. and you're not qualified. Sasha grabbed her bag and stormed out, heels clacking like gunshots down the hallway. Emily turned back to the room. Next candidate, please. And just like that, my sister's dream job went up in smoke, lit by a match she handed over years ago. It didn't take long for everything to collapse. Within a week of brunch, Mom's board called an emergency meeting. She tried to spin it, of course, claimed the receipts were taken out of context, that someone was jealous of her success. But it didn't work. Too many questions, too many emails she couldn't explain. They placed her on administrative leave. Donations dropped. Her name got pulled from an upcoming gala. For someone who lived off reputation, it was a death sentence. Meanwhile, Sasha stopped posting on social media entirely. Gone were the gym selfies and #girlboss quotes. Word had gotten around that she faked her resume and stole content. The startup cut her loose without even a thank you. She spent most days sulking at home, supposedly figuring things out, but mostly just blaming Emily. And suddenly they both remembered I existed. Mom started texting again. "Sweetheart, we need to talk. I'm worried about you." Sasha followed up with, "You don't see it, but she's dangerous. She's been planning this for months. She used you." At first, I ignored them, but then they started showing up. Once outside my apartment, once at my job. They cried. They begged. They told me they were trying to protect me, that Emily had turned me against my own blood. That's when it hit me. They only knew how to love something they could control. They never saw Emily as a person, just a project to fix or a threat to push away. And now that they couldn't manipulate her, they wanted to erase her. They didn't hate Emily because of what she did. They hated her because she beat them at their own game. One night, I sat on the edge of the bed and told Emily I was done playing mediator. "I'm moving out," I said, cutting ties with both of them. She looked up from her book. "You don't have to do that for me." "I'm not doing it for you," I said. "I'm doing it because they never saw me either. Just someone to drag into their drama. Someone to choose sides." Emily nodded slowly. "Then I guess you're finally choosing your own." We packed my things that weekend, quietly, no drama, no big announcements. And for the first time in my life, I left without apologizing to them. They tried to ruin her because they thought she was weak. Turns out, she was just quiet. And now they were the ones left shouting into silence. The table was still there. Same polished oak surface. Same chandelier above it. Same place where a year ago, my mother and sister laughed while Emily blinked back tears. But this time, everything was different. The house belonged to me now. I'd bought it quietly after Mom's finances tanked, and she put it up for sale. She thought it would go to a stranger. I made sure it didn't. Emily didn't know. Not until that night. I invited her over for a quiet dinner. Just us. No guests. No drama. No cruelty pretending to be conversation. She walked in and froze when she saw the room. "This place." "I know," I said, but I wanted to rewrite the memory. The table was set with candles and her favorite wine. A small plate of pecan pie sat near the center. No turkey. No fake smiles. Just us. We ate slowly. Talked about nothing and everything. Laughed. No one interrupted her. No one rolled their eyes when she reached for second. No one tried to make her feel small. After dessert, I stood up and walked to her side of the table. "I've thought about 100 ways to do this," I said. "Flashy ones, fancy ones. But I keep coming back to this room." She looked up, confused. "Because this was the room they tried to break you in," I continued. "And you never once broke." I pulled the ring from my pocket and knelt down beside her. "I don't want to rewrite your past. I just want to build your future. With you. On your terms. Always." Her hand flew to her mouth. Her eyes filled, but no tears fell. "Emily," I said, "will you marry me?" She nodded before she could even speak. "Yes. God, yes." I slid the ring onto her finger. She pulled me into the kind of kiss that says everything words can't. For a moment, I just held her. And I realized something I should have known all along. Emily was never weak. She wasn't soft. She wasn't broken. She was patient. And patience is what gave her the strength to outlast them, outsmart them, and still find a way to love me through all of it. We cleared the plates together that night. We danced in the kitchen. We laughed until our cheeks hurt. And the room that once made her cry? It belonged to her now. Every corner of it. The wedding invitations went out in gold-lined envelopes with embossed lettering and hand-tied ribbon. Emily spent hours designing them herself, clean, elegant, flawless. Just like everything she touched. We weren't having a huge wedding, just close friends, a few distant relatives, and people who had been kind to us when it mattered. But 2 envelopes were set aside on the table. One for my mother, one for Sasha. I looked at them, then at Emily. "You sure about this?" I asked. She nodded. "Absolutely." She didn't put their addresses on the front. Instead, she hand-delivered them, quietly, with no explanation. The front looked like any other invite, our names, the date, the venue. But inside, where it should have said, "You are invited to celebrate," there was something else. This is what forgiveness looks like. not attendance. That was it. No location, no time, no RSVP. Just a message. It hit harder than any insult ever could. No shouting, no blaming, just the kind of silence you can't answer. My phone rang within an hour. First Sasha, then Mom. Voicemails, texts, emails. Some angry, some fake sweet, some pretending to be confused. You're seriously not inviting your own family? Wow, she's even more manipulative than we thought. You'll regret this. I didn't respond. Neither did Emily. Instead, we poured 2 glasses of champagne and watched the sun set from our balcony. She leaned her head on my shoulder and said, "You know what the real revenge is?" I smiled. "Sending the invite?" "No," she said. "Letting them realize they can't touch us anymore. Letting them sit in the silence they created." I thought about that. How they used to fill every room with noise, cutting words, cruel laughs, fake compliments. Now they were locked out completely, watching from the outside. They wanted control. They got nothing. Emily didn't need to destroy them. She just stopped letting them win. And in the end, they didn't lose because of anything she did. They lost because of who they were. The wedding was perfect, small, joyful, free. And when we said our vows, I looked at her and knew not a single part of our life would ever belong to them again. Emily didn't just survive them. She buried them with grace. And she never had to raise her voice to do it.